Good afternoon and welcome to another Applied Physiology Friday. Thanks for showing up today. And we're going to be continuing looking at energy system development, athlete monitoring. And today we're going to look at specifically accumulated fatigue and associated considerations. So the first thing to look at is, what is accumulated fatigue? How does it present itself? And what can we do with it? So theoretical framework is what I call supercompensation. And this is a standard, standard training philosophy, or a standard training theoretical framework. And it comes from Selye's general adaptation syndrome. And what we're really concerned with is periods of stress interspersed with periods of rest. So if this is our baseline fitness, this is where we have an athlete that comes in to a training block. And what we're going to do is we're going to stress the organism. We're going to apply some sort of workout, whether it's designed to improve muscular strength, muscular endurance, cardiovascular. And that workout is going to actually put the athlete into a state of fatigue. So after that workout is over, they at the microscopic level, they're actually going to be less fit or less adapted than when they started at the beginning of the workout. We're going to let that athlete recover for a period of time, and individual response is going to dictate how long that recovery period is. So then the athlete is going to recover. We allow a little bit more recovery. And then this period from here to here is where we build fitness. So this is the actual gains. This is the super in supercompensation. So one of the things to remember, one of the things to keep in mind for the strength coaches out there and for my coaches in general is that the changes in the body are happening subcellularly. So if I give an athlete a cardiovascular workout, we'd go out and we do a long run or a long ride. And when we're looking at heart rate zones, we're going to do it the majority of the time in that green zone. So in that fat burning 180 minus age heart rate zone, the changes are going to happen at the level of the mitochondria and at the level of the capillaries. The purpose of a cardiovascular stimulus in terms of endurance, the endurance side of it, is to build mitochondrial density, to build capillary density. And then when we're looking at keeping that heart rate at 180, at below 180 minus age, the other thing that we're doing is teaching the body to burn fat as a fuel source. So those changes are going to take place microscopically. So we need to give it a rest time. Back in the day, the old school training, you take a look at the Oregon running, the Bill Dellinger, his running system at the University of Oregon was always stress rest. So they would do a hard workout and then they'd take an easy day, and then they do a hard workout and then they would take an easy day. And at the time, it worked very well. You take a look at some of the runners that came out of the Oregon system and they're phenomenal. But now when we move into looking at athlete monitoring, and we can look at our workload and we can look at our HRV, now we're starting to get a little bit more scientific in here. We're starting to realize that, hey, individual response, no two people are the same. Even though both athletes do the same workout on Monday, one of them may be recovered by Wednesday, the other one may be recovered by Thursday. So the main takeaway from supercompensation is the alternation of hard days and easy days, the alternation of stress days and rest days. And then the other thing we talked about last week when we were talking HRV is that stress is stress. So whether an athlete is undergoing a physiological stressor or a psychological stressor, there's gonna be some stress on the system. It may manifest itself in HRV readings being skewed a little bit lower, or it may manifest itself in terms of a workload being reading high the next day. So let's take a look at some accumulated fatigue data, and we are going to look at this workout right here. So looking at accumulated fatigue, we can operationally define accumulated fatigue as residual tiredness, or we can look at it as leftovers in the metabolic refrigerator. So last night, my mom made a great meatloaf for dinner, but we didn't eat the whole thing. We put the meatloaf in the refrigerator, and when I'm done with this, I'm going to have some of that meatloaf for lunch. So if we're looking at accumulated fatigue or the leftovers, the workout would have been the meatloaf from last night. The accumulated fatigue or the metabolic leftovers, that's going to be what's in the refrigerator today. If we're looking at this workout right here, so this workout here on the 14th, Sunday the 14th, this was last Sunday, was a 5.5 hour bike ride with somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 feet of climbing. And with my polar, using my polar flow data, after the workout, I was up in the very strained level. The next day, when I woke up, I was already bringing in this amount of fatigue to my workout, or this amount of fatigue to my day. What this is telling me as a coach or as a practitioner is that from a cardiovascular standpoint, from a metabolic standpoint, my body is in a state of deep fatigue. And we can look at our recovery status right here. And this is one of the reasons why I love Polar. I love Polar products. Again, for full disclosure, I receive no monetary compensation from Polar for this. I just love their products. So we have a loss of training state here, or a detraining is going to be this gray. Balanced is green, yellow is strained, and then orange is very strained. When I did this workout on Sunday, I came into it and I was balanced. I woke up Sunday morning, my residual fatigue from the previous week was right here at the middle upper end of green. That tells me from a metabolic standpoint, I'm good to go. I'm ready to do work. I go out and I ride 5.5 hours, do 4,000 feet of elevation, go to bed the next day, wake up, and I'm bringing in this fatigue right here. I'm bringing in this residual fatigue or this accumulated fatigue. Now the question is going to be, how are we going to program this workout? And down the road, how do we program this one, and this one? And you can see here that after doing this workout, if I had done nothing on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I would have still been strained. My body would have still been dealing with that fatigue. According to this graph here, my fatigue from last Sunday's ride will be fully absorbed, if you will, by next Sunday. And this is one of the things that makes athlete monitoring and that makes data collection so fascinating, is that we can see exactly what the trend is for the fatigue. Now, since there's no races, we're in a period of no racing. We can look at this with the corona pandemic as an elongated general physical preparatory phase, that it is good to have fatigue. It is good to teach our bodies to deal with this. I wouldn't want to see data like this coming into an event or coming into a series of games on the weekend. I wouldn't want to go this high in season, but general physical preparatory, absolutely. Looking at our creative side. So Monday morning, I wake up, I know that I have this from my polar data, and then I check my HRV. My HRV tells me that I have a readiness score of 9. Remember, HRV is going to address the neurological readiness. What is my balance between my sympathetic and my parasympathetic nervous systems? How prepared are my nervous systems to engage in work that day? What flow tells me is how prepared or how ready my cardiovascular system is ready to engage in activity, ready to take on a high workload. One of the things that we need to consider with the polar data is it's created for endurance athletes, and so it's going to be biased toward cardiovascular stimuli, energy system development stimuli, metabolic conditioning. It moves away from muscular strength, muscular endurance. As an example, when I do my resistance training, I can do an hour resistance training session and barely get a red indicator right here from polar flow. So looking at this data, I have high metabolic stress here that I've brought in, high accumulated fatigue. I have a excellent balance between my sympathetic and my parasympathetic. So what am I going to do about it? And this is the creative side. In strength and conditioning, in coaching, we talk about the artistic side, the art and the science of coaching. This is where the art comes in. So what do we know? Well, we have a great deal of physiological fatigue. So from a physiological point of view, I'm going to need recovery. My nervous system is fresh. So I have that HRV of 9. So my workout should be a recovery cardiovascular stimulus. In terms of heart rate, we're going mid to low green. Remember that green area, 180 minus age. So I'm going to be in a deep fat burning zone. The purpose of the workout is going to be, from a cardiovascular standpoint, just to get the blood flowing into the muscles that were really working the previous day, just to build that recovery, to bring in oxygen, to bring in nutrients, to take out any of the metabolic waste that accumulated the day before. Think of it as, in terms of hockey, my hockey coaches do a flush ride after a game. This is going to be just a little bit of a longer flush ride. So again, using my athlete monitoring to make sure that I keep a lid on it. That's one of my phrases for coaching is I want to keep a lid on the intensity. I don't want to go yellow. I don't want to go red. I want to keep it green, green, green. The next thing we take a look at, because HRV was 9, I can challenge the nervous system. So what I can do is isolate the ends of my force velocity curve. My force velocity curve talks about the relationship between the speed of muscle contraction and how much force is produced. What I'm going to do in this workout is spend a little bit of time here and spend a little bit of time here, and I'm going to alternate between these 2 points. I'm not going maximal force. I'm not going maximal speed. My stimulus is going to be high force, low velocity, or low force, high velocity. And this is going to be for my main set. What I'm going to be able to do is get some strength, develop strength on my force, and then I can do neuromuscular synchronicity with my speed phase, the speed aspect of the workout. So the workouts, I like to train twice a day. And one of the things that we look at is that even though I had an accumulated fatigue, a lot of accumulated fatigue from the day before, from a coaching standpoint and an athlete standpoint, I like to make workouts a habit. I like to train every day. In this training block, I like to train twice a day because it develops the habit of training. And our elite athletes, they're going to be doing something every day. They're going to be doing something twice a day most days. If it's just an easy cardio in the morning and some mobility in the evening, they're still reinforcing the process of training. We look at the difference between the process and the product. Right now, in the time of the Corona lockdown, we need to embrace the time, use this time to embrace the process of training. We're not training for anything specifically. Eventually, the games are going to come back. Eventually, the races are going to come back. And when they do, the people that have embraced the process, the people that have embraced the time spent in this elongated GPP phase are going to be the ones that succeed. So my morning workout, this is going to be a movement workout. I'm going to get some lacrosse going, get some wall ball going, just throwing the ball against the wall, rights and lefts, and behind the back, integrating body planes. That's so with lacrosse, the purpose of lacrosse in my training program personally is going to be, it allows integration of body planes. So the body's divided into 3 planes: frontal, sagittal, transverse, or right, left, top, bottom, front, back. And when I go and when I ride, when I run, I'm going to be sagittal plane dominant, right, left. So with my morning workout, the first thing I want to do, get some movement in. I look at this as thawing my muscles. When you take meat out of the freezer, put it on the counter, it's going to thaw. With the muscles, same thing. When you wake up in the morning, you got to thaw them out. And this is especially important for my master's athletes. Begin the day with some light movement and integrate body planes. If you spent all day in the sagittal plane the day before, go a little bit heavier on my frontal plane, on my transverse plane. The next thing we're going to do in the evening, we're going to go back and look at that force velocity curve. So I'm going to put my bike on the wind trainer. The reason why is I'm taking all of the external variables that are controlled by the environment out of the equation. No hills, no wind, no uphill, no downhill, no dogs to out sprint. So I'm going to do what I call a 60-minute high-low ride. Intensity, mid to low green. But when we take a look at high-low, what we're looking at is our cadence. So the cadence is how fast do I turn the pedals over. I'm going to do 5 minutes of what the term in the bike racing biz is a heavy gear. So a heavy gear, low RPM, I'm going to be feeling my glutes contract. My glutes are going to be driving the equation. And we can look at the pedal motion. It originates from the glutes, and it's going to be a combination of a hinge and a squat. So I want to keep this at 70 RPM. And what I'm doing, because my RPM, my revolutions per minute, are so slow, I'm going to be using a lot of muscle fibers that don't normally get called into play this early in a ride. So I'm going to be working the neuromuscular recruitment side of things. And this is going to be the force. This is the force of the force velocity curve. Then, next 5 minutes, I'm going to work a light gear. So a light gear, not a lot of resistance. This is going to allow me to spin at a high cadence. If anybody has ever done a sprint leg drill, pop, 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 fast feet. Well, what the high-low ride does, the high side of the high-low ride is going to give me that shocking of the neuromuscular system. It's going to teach that motor program, the pathway from the brain to the spinal cord to the muscle, to fire fast, 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 fast. So I work, and then I go back to my 5 minutes, I go back to my heavy side. Now I'm working a heavy gear. Now I'm working a neuromuscular recruitment. I'm working a very slow, a very forceful movement. 5 minutes later, pop, 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 pop. Very light gear, very high cadence, get that turnover going. So I work one part of the pedaling motion for 5 minutes. I work the other part of the pedaling motion for 5 minutes. And this is what we're going to do as a recovery day. So I'm neuromuscularly fresh. I am metabolically fatigued. I got to get the work in. How do I do it? Well, I say, hey, since I'm neuromuscularly fresh, I can do a neuromuscular workout, but keep the cardiovascular intensity at a very low level. All right, getting in contact with me, reach out. You want to hit me up, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at RunBikeDoc. You want to email me, runbikedoc@gmail.com, and YouTube channel, Doc Hickey. I want to thank my employer, Florida A&M University. They brought you the background for today. I'm an associate professor of exercise science there, and they provide me with the opportunity to learn all of this stuff. Until next week, thanks for showing up, and keep on keeping on. Thanks for showing up, and have a great day.